Hey everybody, welcome back to FSi DFS. Looking at the 10-game main slate here for Wednesday. Double-digit games and not a whole lot to like in terms of pitching. I think there's one guy in the mid-tier that's going to be extremely popular, extremely chalky, but it's a pitcher that in the past has been pretty shaky. So is it good chalk? Who knows? We'll talk about all that. We got the sheet with the rankings. We'll pull it up here in a couple of minutes along with the stacks and talk about some builds. But let's just start up at the top as we always do. 4 pitchers priced 9K and above. Eovaldi, I think you can almost just put at the bottom. Facing off against the Yankees, just an absolutely brutal matchup. Prefer everybody else's matchups over him. So he's going to be ranked 4th amongst these top 4 pitchers. And then ranked 3rd, I'm going to go with George Kirby. I could see a possibility where Kirby actually sees quite a bit of ownership here tonight. You know, he's the top pitcher. He's the high salary pitcher that has the quote-unquote easiest matchup. But at the same time, Oakland, they can absolutely mash righties at times. We've seen it throughout the course of the season. They have a lot of lefty bats that just hit the ball very well. And Kirby, he's been allowing a lot of home runs as of late. 2 of his past 4 games, he's allowed 3 home runs. Even before that, he allowed 2 home runs to Detroit. So it is slightly concerning, the power that he has been giving up. The control's still there, but the strikeout rate is down. The hard contact is up, and he's not really going super deep into the games because of all of that. So there is a little bit of hesitation with Kirby if it's expected that he sees a whole lot of ownership. I'm going to say that Oakland is one of my favorite GPP/leverage stacks on the board, and you will see that in the sheet. Between Gray and Imanaga, I think it's pretty similar. I could listen to an argument, one over the other. Imanaga's kind of also had a little bit of a home run yips recently, 13 home runs in his past 10 starts. But I like the Gray strikeout upside and ceiling better, but I also like the Imanaga floor a little bit better facing off against Pittsburgh. I haven't looked at the wins in Wrigley, so definitely something to monitor and pay attention with that. If the winds are blowing out, definitely a downgrade to Imanaga just because he's such a high fly ball pitcher and, has a little bit of home run issues to go along with that. But if you're chasing the upside, I think going with Gray. If you're chasing a little bit more of a floor, I think maybe going with Imanaga in here. Going down into the mid-tier, talking about that one super chalk pitcher, and it's going to be Charlie Morton facing off against Colorado. Really, we got a pitcher who goes deep into games, has a respectable K rate at home on a heavily favored team, facing off against one of the worst offenses in baseball. One of the worst offenses in baseball at 8.2. I think he's going to be really popular, especially given the lack of excitement with the rest of the board. If that is the case, do we want to trust Charlie Morton being a super chalk pitcher? I don't. I'm not saying that he's bad chalk. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be chalk. He should be. Given everything that we have on the board and the matchup and just everything taken into consideration, it's expected that he's going to be the popular guy on the board. But at the same time, I don't know. There's some hesitation. There's some reservation with it. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say with that. He's still going to be in my cash builds. I'm just going to say it right now. If I was going to be building cash, I'd probably still put Charlie Morton in there as my first pitcher. Just because, again, there's not much else to like. But am I thrilled about it? No. After Charlie Morton, let's just pull up the rankings here. I've made you wait long enough. Pull up the rankings. Morton's number 1. Sears. I really like Sears and the upside that he can bring, the possibility that he can bring. He's more of a GPP play than anything. If you want to get off of Morton, I could say, go down towards Sears. He looked really well. He's also got a great matchup facing off against Seattle, who just strikes out an absurd amount. Sears, he doesn't really have a super great strikeout upside to him, but really any pitcher that is facing off against Seattle is going to see, a 1 to 2 strikeout boost in their typical total. So you can see he's typically hovering around the 3 to 5 mark, but does have that ceiling game of getting, higher up into 7 to 9. And it wouldn't shock me if he's able to get up there. So I think for a tournament play, getting off the Morton chalk and looking for some upside, I think that Sears could be a really nice option there. Gallen right behind him up at 8.4K. facing off against San Francisco. San Francisco does strike out quite a bit as well, so don't mind him there. Going over into the cheap tier, and it's yikes. Miller, McGill, Miller. I could listen to either one of these guys being up at the top. Am I excited about either one of them being up at the top? No. McGill is facing off against Boston, and do I like playing right-handed pitchers against Boston? You know the answer. If you've been watching these videos, you know the answer. I absolutely love Boston against right-handed pitching, especially weaker left-handed pitching. McGill, he came back from his minor league stint. An injury last start out. I want to say he faced off against the White Sox. I had him in the video. He was my preview video that day. Yeah, he faced off against the White Sox and did really well. But maybe it's because he faced off against the worst team in MLB history that he did fairly well. Now he's facing off against Boston, a lot more pop in their bats to be concerned with. So a little bit of reservation with that. And then Bobby Miller facing off against the Angels. This whole slate, you would expect with 20 starting pitchers going on the mound that we'd have somebody that we're like, yes, we love it. It's just not happening on the board. It's truly frustrating. But Miller, he's capable of getting you 20 DK points. I wish he wasn't 7.3K. I wish he was more like 6.8, 6.9. Because at 7.3, you're hoping that he can get you around, 18 DK points. And am I expecting that tonight? No, not really. But given everybody else down here in this cheap salary tier, he's got the best matchup. He's got his team has the highest, win probability. Does he have the win probability? No, he's got to go for at least 5 innings for that. But yeah, like 7 ERA is maybe McGill over Miller. It's gross. The only other pitcher that I might have a little bit of interest in would be Birdsong, but at the same time, playing against Arizona. Arizona has the most, what was the stat I saw? It was on like the ESPN bottom line ticker. It was like they have the most 12 plus run games of any offense in the league. I can't remember the exact stat, but it's like when they are on, this Arizona offense is just absolutely dominant and elite. And the other issue with Birdsong is that he just doesn't go super deep into games. Like, yeah, he's got the strikeout upside that the other pitchers in this lower salary tier do not have. But he's not going past 4 innings ever. Like, he's getting to 80, 90 pitches, but he's just not efficient with everything because he's got some control issues and he's working deep into counts because he's got the control issues, but he's also getting the strikeouts. So he's just seeing a lot of 3-2 counts, and every single batter that goes up there is getting 7 to 8 pitches deep. And next thing you know, he's at 90 pitches. We're only 4 innings in, and that's that. So limited interest in Birdsong. Lively, just not a whole lot of strikeout upside. So I think Morton's going to be very heavy chalk, especially in the cash games. While I don't love it, I still think he's going to be my SP1 in my cash builds. JP Sears, though, I really think he's a fantastic GPP play here. It would be my favorite GPP option as a pitcher. Top salary tier is pretty, but Imanaga a little bit more for floor, Gray for more for the upside, and Kirby, if he's seeing a little bit of extra chalk or a lot of more ownership, I think that Oakland is a phenomenal leverage deck here tonight. And then the cheap tier is just a bunch of All right, heading over towards the bats. You'd think that with all the bad pitching, we'd love a lot of the bats, and we do. Dodgers and Atlanta going to be leading the charge here, but they're super expensive. So point per dollar wise, I might lean a little bit more towards the the Chicago Cubs and the Kansas City Royals, a little bit over the Dodgers and Atlanta, just from a point per dollar perspective. I don't think salaries can be too much of an issue though, especially when we think that the chalk is going to be, only 8.2K for pitching and nobody else is priced over 10,000. So really do like those guys. If you were going with Chicago, this is one of the hottest offenses in all of baseball. Slowed down ever so slightly recently, but still just absolutely phenomenal with what they've been able to do. Crow Armstrong at 3.5K, he would probably be the first guy that would be jamming into your lineups if you are going with, Chicago, just because of the value that he brings and a nice lefty-righty matchup. Chicago's got a lot of nice lefties and switch hitters, but honestly, against Herman, just lefty-righty, I don't care too much. Like guys like Suzuki have been hitting the ball well, Horner's been hitting the ball well, but definitely going to be starting with Crow Armstrong at 3.5K. If I was going to be going with Chicago. And then Kansas City, also in a nice lefty-righty matchup. Talked briefly about Lively, about like he just doesn't have a whole lot of strikeout upside to him. I think I saw one at his strikeout prop was only at 3.5, a little bit juiced towards the under. So they're not expecting him to see too much, and we're going to have a lot more interest. Was I hovering the outfielders for, I think I was, for Chicago. Regardless. Kansas City, really do like them from both sides of the plates, but they also do have those lefties that can certainly do some damage. Facing off against Lively, we talk about Massey at 4.4K. Bobby Witt is always going to be in play. It's just so sad. Pasquantino going on the IL. Did he break his thumb? Why is that sticking out? Yep, fractured right thumb. Good memory. But yeah, just disappointment there, losing that big lefty bat. You still got guys like Melendez that are still in there and cheaper options that we can go to. But you can quickly see I'm highlighting a lot of lefty bats, or not lefty bats, outfielders to jam into your lineup. But it is what it is. Go ahead, get some of those Atlanta guys, get some of those Dodgers guys. You don't have to talk too much about them, just because we all know who's going to be popular on those teams. GPP, really like Boston. Again, McGill, again, it's just kind of like paying attention to what the industry is thinking. Like, if the industry is thinking that McGill's going to be a popular cheap play, sign me up for all the Boston. He showed us one solid start in his return, but he was really shaky prior to that, returning to that one start, and that one start was against the White Sox, and now he's facing off against the best team in the entire league against right-handed pitching. So give me all the Boston if that is the case, that he's going to be super popular. We like all the lefties on Boston. It's your typical guys. It's going to be Duran, it's going to be Devers, it's going to be Casas, a lot of higher priced guys when you get up towards the top, but as soon as you get to Casas, like I said, 4.6, and then even down below that, Abreu's only 4.1. But again, it just kind of turns into that there's a lot of outfielders that we really, really like jamming into our lineups. But if you are going Boston, it's probably because you're playing in the tournament and you want to get off of the popular guys of Chicago and Kansas City and Atlanta, so you won't have to worry about ownership on those guys as much. Arizona, already talked about the ceiling and the elite upside that they can have. Leverage, really like Oakland. And then we'll just talk really quick about St. Louis in the cheap tier here. St. Louis, I think, is really intriguing facing off against Conner Ray. Looking a lot better recently as an offense. Paul Goldschmidt, I don't know if you've seen his numbers, but they're video game numbers. He's hitting over 500 in his past 10 starts. Insane. Absolutely insane. 20 for 39, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, 12 average. But even though ready matchup, he's just one of the hotter pitchers in all of baseball. Burleson is another guy who's been hitting the ball very well. Donovan, Newbar, Walker, he's getting full playing time now. Hey, it's another outfielder that we're going to be recommending here. But at 3.2K can provide you with some of that nice cheap value. So that's kind of where the slate shakes out. Pitching is really sketchy. Try to look around, browse the industry, see who's talking up who. But again, if I think that Kirby and McGill are going to see quite a bit of ownership, I'm going to be all over Boston. I'm going to be all over Oakland in tournaments specifically. But I think that Morton's going to see the chalk, especially in cash games. And then, Dodgers down to San Diego, really, or for your top tier. So good luck in your contest, as always. Really do appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow for another one.